Smart people don't like me, you know, and they don't like what we talk about.
That was President Donald Trump accidentally admitting what he actually thinks about, I think, his voters. Because if smart people don't like you, then where does that leave the people that do like you? I'm just asking. It's a good question. All right. I think it's a fair question given the context. Okay. Now, what about the context? It's only a 4-second clip. Show me the context. Well, okay. He was talking about Tyler Robinson, the suspect in the assassination of Charlie Kirk, which, again, I have already talked about is a tragic thing. I don't believe in political assassinations. I think that's horrible. But anyway, that person that had murdered Charlie Kirk was not a trans person, was not a leftist. Okay, he was reportedly a far-right fan of Nick Fuentes and his so-called Groyper army. Oh my God, that's a rabbit hole I don't really want to go into, but perhaps might have to at some point. But anyway, he regularly clashed with Charlie Kirk, Nick Fuentes did. Look, the reason, by the way, that the Groyper Wars had happened on the right is because, and Charlie Kirk was central to that, okay? Charlie Kirk versus Nick Fuentes. Fuentes thought, you know, I think Charlie Kirk is too moderate. Yeah. So that's why that happened. But anyway, now, Trump added in this statement, okay, that, it must have been traumatic because the parents are conservative people, supposed to be very nice people living in Utah. And then the father turns in the son. He said, boy, that's a tough deal. Again, why does that have to, what does that have to do with, smart people not liking him and not liking what they talk about? I don't know. But again, if you've ever listened to Donald Trump, you would know that his brain just hops around to different things. Okay. I mean, I have ADHD, right? So I'm familiar with hopping around to different things, but usually there's some sort of connection here between the stuff that he's talking about that you can kind of go, oh, okay, that's how this is related, right? I can't figure out how, smart people don't like me is related to the stuff that he's talking about when it comes to the assassination of Charlie Kirk. I don't understand. But anyway, look, he continued. Actually, I asked somebody in the FBI, how often does that happen? Knowing even the guilt that a father will turn in or parents will turn in the son. And he said, quote unquote, almost never. Look, there doesn't really seem to be any numbers behind that, so you can't really fact check that. We really don't know how often children are turned in to the police by their parents. I'm not really sure if that's a statistic that anybody tracks. We do track the demographics. We do track the education level of voters. We do track that kind of stuff. And look, Donald Trump, to get back to his original point, you know what? He actually does better with people with less formal education. In fact, here he is celebrating that fact.
We won with poorly educated. I love the poorly educated.
I mean, there it is, right? I'm not. Now, here's the thing. I am not saying Trump voters are stupid. No. I'm actually saying that they're less formally educated. Okay? That means not really college degrees. Okay? And so, look, when you don't have a college degree, there are certain things that you do not know. For example, like history, or they might not be that knowledgeable about politics, and might not know how to do critical thinking or how to spot fake news. And I think that's really important, how, you have a lot of people in this country that are very susceptible to fake news, to misinformation, and don't have that ability or haven't been really taught or encouraged to do critical thinking. it seems like that thing, that lack of ability has really gotten this country in a lot of trouble. Okay. And so they also might not know when people are lying to them. Also, I would say pretty relevant. Now, I wouldn't call that stupid. I would think I'd call that ignorance. And here's the thing about ignorance that I've said for a long time that I've always believed. Ignorance can be fixed. Ignorance can be remedied, and you can do so with knowledge. Now, of course, you have to, as the person being educated, be open to learning new things and to be able to cast aside previously held beliefs that are not backed up by factual information. Okay? You have to be able to set those aside, like, and admit that, like, it turns out that I was wrong about this thing. Okay, well, I will now accept that the new information that is true and that is provable over what I previously believed. Now, that is a difficult thing to do. I mean, and that's because human beings are hardwired to reject information that makes them uncomfortable. We know that. Or even fearful. Okay? Especially fearful. Okay? And fear is a pretty big predictor of being conservative, being a Republican, because the conservatives fear change. They do. That's the whole point of conserving. Okay? They also prefer hierarchies. Okay? Established hierarchies. And some fear people who are different or who have different belief systems. And I am, of course, speaking in generalities, of course. There are very educated conservatives. In fact, you have a lot of Republican politicians that have college degrees. So, yeah. And look, a lot of Republicans in Congress, for example, they have law degrees, business degrees, etc. So they are formally educated. Okay? And here's the thing, right? Years ago, it actually used to be the fact that college-educated voters, who often would make more money, all right, they were more likely to vote for Republicans. Why? Tax cuts. They wanted tax cuts. And that makes sense, right? That's logical. But now, especially after Trump came on the scene, well, I mean, look, Trump lost educated people. Okay, now a majority of them voted for people like Joe Biden, for example, or Kamala Harris, and ended up gaining non-college educated white males. All right. So that's important too, because broken down demographically, you have non-college educated people of other races that did not shift towards Republicans. They stayed the same. Women, black people, Hispanics voted similarly than what they always had, regardless of their educational background, which tended to be voting for Democrats. But non-college educated white men, they went for Trump. So we know exactly who Trump is talking about. White men. That's it. White, non-college educated men. So now when he says he loves the uneducated, he's talking about the white dudes without the college degrees, who are his biggest backers. And the ones, ironically, most likely to be harmed by his particular policies. Okay? Aside from, of course, Hispanic voters, black voters, etc. Look, these people are not exactly rich, okay? People without college degrees tend to make less money overall compared to those who have college degrees. Those people tend to be hit hardest by the tariffs, while in general being helped the least by Trump's massive tax cuts. All right? Now, that said, there are a few careers, obviously, that do not require a formal education that pays pretty well. For example, skilled trades. All right? So skilled trades do require certification and formal training. And so what I'm talking about are the jobs that someone could get right out of high school. Okay? those are the jobs that really don't tend to pay a whole lot. And it's the voters who hold those jobs that are, young white males, they actually used to support Democrats, but flipped over to Donald Trump. Again, 50% of voters with family incomes under $50,000 supported Donald Trump in 2024, while 48% voted for Kamala Harris. And so, look, one of the reasons that he harped on the economy, remember, he talked about, I'm going to lower grocery prices. I'm going to lower the price of prescription drugs. I'm going to lower this. I'm going to lower that. And people believed him. and that's getting back to the, I'm not really, I'm a low information voter. And so I don't really know the reality of the situation. I don't know. Trump says he's going to do all this stuff. Okay. I guess I'm going to vote for him. And of course, it turned out to not be true. And look, we know that a majority of the people who voted for Donald Trump are white young men without formal education. Not just young men, but just white men in general. Okay, this is who Donald Trump's talking about. So now, in response to the video, okay, Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett posted this. She said, I agree. So, does MAGA know what this means? He thinks of them? That's a good question. It's a fair question. In response, the Trump White House, through its spokesperson, Abigail Jackson, told the Daily Beast, quote, all 3 of Jasmine Crockett's brain cells are infected with Trump derangement syndrome. This is the official White House spokesperson literally calling a black woman, a black representative, stupid. That's what Trump thinks of black women. Honestly, I mean, it's not like it's not like that statement wouldn't have been approved. No, that's exactly what Trump would have said, because he said stuff that is similar to that for a long time. Remember, he tends to focus on black women and call them dumb. He does not think that they are smart. He thinks that black women only got their jobs because of DEI and affirmative action. And he's racist. I mean, that's it. That's an old school racist stereotype. All right? And that they all sleep their way to the top or something. In reality, DEI, people, they end up having the same education levels, the same grade point averages, all that stuff. Than, the white people that they're competing against, right, for those jobs. DEI and affirmative action, those programs were set up to ensure that these qualified black people, of which there are, again, many qualified black people, are not passed over for the fact that they are black. Okay? Again, they're just as qualified, but a lot of them do end up getting passed over because they are black. They're passed over for positions or even promotions because of their skin color. So it's pretty telling that this was the response. Okay. And again, to somebody pointing out that Trump actually does think the people that support him are stupid. Okay. Yeah, smart people don't like me. But apparently stupid people love me. He doesn't have to say it for that to be the implication. And so, hey, he said it. He's going to deny it. But that's exactly what he meant. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell icon in order to get notified whenever a new video is released. And if you want to support independent, progressive media through this difficult time where it seems like everybody is shutting down, you can become a member on our YouTube page, you can become a subscriber on Facebook, or you can go to my Patreon. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf. Thank you.